Cece asks Maxwell, does that name ring a bell? And he says, not even a jingle. And she says, well, she did invest $50,000 in our last show.
Yeah, this is pretty bad on Max to not remember a substantial investor in your show.
Not even a jingle for $50,000? That's pretty bad. Welcome back to another episode of A Fine Podcast with your host, Amanda, and
Joseph. Yeah, welcome back, everyone.
We're so excited to be here today to talk about another episode of The Nanny.
Yes, episode 3, season 1.
That's right. And this episode is called My Fair Nanny.
She's fair indeed.
Yes. And let's get right into the episode. It starts right in the Sheffield mansion near the front door. And it involves Fran, Max, and Brighton. And Fran is helping Max and Brighton go off to play a game of ball.
Yes, good old father-son catch.
Yes, baseball, that is.
Yes.
Did you ever play baseball with your father growing up?
Yeah, of course. This was like, for fathers and sons, this was a pinnacle time in the 90s to do that.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of fun.
It was. Yeah, we shared a lot of great moments.
Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah.
So it makes me happy that Max is finally getting around to doing this with Brighton. I know he has a really busy schedule, but Fran comes in and she gives the gloves and the ball over to them, and they have tags on, which indicates that they are new, I guess.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe they're trying to allude where Max doesn't spend enough time with the kids. So maybe this was her idea to have them play catch and use these gloves, and he never took the tag off.
Nope. For the first time, maybe, that they're playing ball. But yeah, I'm glad they get to go do this. And they're both wearing hats to get in the festive spirit of playing ball. And Fran turns Max's hat backwards so he can look cool.
Yeah, he's got to fit in. That was all the cool kids wore the backwards ball caps instead.
Yes. How do you think Maxwell looks in a backwards ball cap?
A little ridiculous. I think I believe him when he says he's not a cap person. Forwards or backwards.
Yep.
Wasn't looking
good. It's weird for sure. So they're off doing that. And then Gracie is going to fly her kite. So Fran and Gracie talk a little bit about flying the kite. And Fran tells Gracie that a kite is like a guy. You give him some slack, you let him fly free. Then at the end of the day, you yank his string and reel him back in. And then it seems like Gracie's really picking up on this. And she says, then you can hang him on a hook until you're ready to use him again. And where do you think Gracie came up with that? Do you think she's learning from Fran a lot of these sayings?
Oh, yeah, of course. It's got to be. I mean, who else is feeding those ideas into her head?
I certainly wouldn't think that as a kid as something to say.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is totally Fran just feeding her ideologies into her. But she also mentions, which keeps alluding to the personality thing, where she doesn't deal well with separation, meaning if she loses the kite, she doesn't want to be apart from it. So this alludes to separation anxiety.
Poor Gracie.
Yeah, they really kept this going. They're going strong with it.
Yep. Again, here we see that in Gracie. So
yes, more therapy is needed.
More therapy. She's not finished yet. So in this next scene, we see Fran giving a quiz to Brighton, and then Gracie gives one of the answers to the quiz, and I think it was the capital of Peru. And then we have Lima. Yes. Correct.
Thank you.
Good job.
Yes.
So Cece comes into the room where everybody's eating, and she says that she has some good news. And this is where we see our first burn from Niles.
So Niles responds, they've selected a dilettante for the biosphere, which a dilettante is a person who cultivates an area of interest such as the arts without real commitment or knowledge. So basically, Cece, he's making fun that Cece is not actually knowledgeable in this area.
That makes sense. And how come Cece doesn't respond back to that? She just takes it.
Yeah, that was kind of an interesting right by the writers, why they had no. She just completely moves on and ignores that.
She's doing that a lot lately.
Maybe she's just doesn't want to even entertain the idea.
Maybe she finally breaks when she starts responding back to some of those cracks.
Yes.
So Cece says she went to the salon and she went there for an herbal wrap, the Elizabeth Arden salon. And she wants everybody to guess who was under the turban next to her. And I thought that was kind of odd to use the term turban.
Yeah, that was kind of funny. But also, so they start listing out these different people with the turban. We have Gracie who says Aladdin.
That was pretty funny.
Yes, because I guess for her age, that's the only person she knows who's worn a turban. Then Fran says Yasser Arafat, which he was the former president of Palestine.
Okay. Yep.
Back in the 90s. Which then Max responds to saying, no, that's not a turban. That's a burnous that he's wearing. Which I found strange because a burnous is the clothing, like the robes that they would wear.
Like a cloak?
Yes, like a long robe. Which the turban's like a headpiece, and then the burnous would be like a body piece. So that's strange that they're comparing a headpiece to a body piece because they're not the same. Anyway,
wow.
I thought that was weird that they made Max say that. So.
Maybe it was a whole body thing.
Maybe there's burnouses that have head pieces attached to it. I don't know.
So that's an interesting reference there. So our two guesses are Aladdin and Yasser.
Yes, a fictional character and a real character.
And it was neither one. It was Maureen Wentworth.
Yes, the rich lady herself.
That's right. So Cece asks Maxwell, does that name ring a bell? And he says, not even a jingle. And she says, well, she did invest $50,000 in our last show.
Yeah, this is pretty bad on Max to not remember a substantial investor in your show.
Not even a jingle for $50,000? That's pretty bad.
Yeah, either he means he's making big money investors and 50,000 is just nothing to him.
Chump change.
Yeah, where others are doing like 200 plus. Or actually, I don't have an or. It's just that's just bad.
That's just bad. And then once he discovers it's the lady that donated $50,000, he says, yes, how is the dear lady?
Oh, shocker, yes. I remember her all of a sudden.
Yeah, now he cares.
Yeah.
And then Fran says, what, $50,000 for a musical? And then Maxwell gets mad and she says, oh, well, I'm still humming the tunes.
Well, yeah, because she's making fun of his play.
Yes.
Saying it's a worthless show.
And meanwhile, his play pays her salary.
Yeah, that's actually true. I didn't even think about that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
so that's why
true.
I think she then expressed appreciation after the fact.
Yeah.
So Cece says that $50,000 is the kind of change that Maureen finds in her couch, and she is of the Wentworths that came over on the Mayflower.
Yes.
Pilgrims.
The Pilgrims.
Yep. And Fran then asks, like, how did they know what to wear when they came here? What did they know if it was hot or cold, or how did they decide? And Max says they all wore the same outfits.
Yeah, the big hat, the big collar, the big buckle.
Yeah.
That's what Fran responds to with. So
the typical pilgrim style.
Yes. I don't know if that was factually accurate or not, but
yeah, someone checked that. That's a good question.
I didn't think to check their outfits. That was actually what they wore. Anyway.
I know in school we used to like dress up as pilgrims around Thanksgiving, and that's what we would wear.
Right.
But is that true? Is that what they wore?
Yeah.
I don't know. So Cece says that Maureen and her daughter Cynthia are very active in the cotillion society, and that she mentioned Maggie would be a great addition to be a junior deb. And then Maxwell says, what a great opportunity for Maggie. And Cece goes, oh, Maggie, what? She's like, oh, yes, yes, of course. So she's not doing this for a good opportunity for Maggie. She's doing it so they can get some more money into their play. So using Maggie for this purpose.
Yeah, well, she is his business partner. Her main priority in life is to
Get business
generate business for their play.
by using the daughter.
Well, it's a win-win, right? She can become more sophisticated
Yes.
in society, and they can make more money.
That's true. And Maxwell doesn't seem opposed to it. So Fran doesn't either, which shocks everybody. Fran agrees with Cece. And Maggie says, does anybody care what I think? I don't really want to do this. And Cece then says, you'll love it. I was a debutante. It's the only way to meet the right people, make the right connections, and marry the right man. And then Gracie says to Cece, but you never got married.
Yeah, this was a weird comment made by having Cece say that she got married, because we already all knew she was not married. So I don't know. That line felt a little weird to add there. Like I guess because there was the joke there to say, "Oh, you're not married," but
I guess she's just saying it's the way to do everything in your life. Not like she actually did some of those things.
yeah, that's true. Maybe that's it.
But Gracie sure as heck calls her out for that. And then Niles, I think, is kind of jealous that Gracie actually gives the burn here. And he leans over and he says, good one.
Yeah, this was primed for Niles, but Gracie took the ball and hit it. Also, I wanted to mention real quick, too, the Quintillion Society is like a society where you learn your manners and proper etiquette and good mannerisms and things like that. So
Yes.
just in case we didn't go over that. But
No, that's great to know.
also, I took one of those.
You did.
I took a class on like etiquette and stuff when I was a teenager.
How did
Yes.
that go?
I mean, I remember some of the stuff.
Did you like it?
It was interesting. I didn't realize there was such a fine process for eating and doing all these things.
Did it help you get popular
No, I didn't use it for popularity.
like Maggie?
Right. No, I didn't do that.
Okay.
I did it for my own sophistication.
Wow.
Sophistication.
And it helped you so much.
It did. No.
Well, maybe it helped you have some great manners.
That's true. Maybe they're just subconsciously happening and I
Yes,
don't realize it.
that's true.
Yes.
That's interesting, though. So Maggie says, why do I have to do this? I have a social life. I just went to the movies with Denise. And Fran says, that's not a social life because Denise is our cleaning lady.
Yeah, this is pretty unfortunate for Maggie because she doesn't clearly at this point have many friends. She's making friends with her father's employees and those who she connects with. So clearly Fran sees that she needs help and having more friends and being around people her age and just being a teenager.
That's right. Maggie says that all the girls at her school, they're stuck up that are popular. And Fran says, oh, well, you can be popular too if you want. And she says, you're smart, you're gorgeous, plus you have a double A width, which I didn't know what that meant until I looked it up. An extra narrow shoe.
Yeah, I had to look at this too because I don't know much about shoes at all. But
I had no idea.
a double A width, I guess, is the size of a shoe.
Yep.
I don't know if that's a female thing only or if males use that.
I think males may use it too. I'm not sure. But Maggie says, well, skinny feet isn't going to help me be popular here. So I guess it really is just narrow or skinny feet. Fran asks, who's the leader of the pack at your school? And she's like, oh, that'll be Cindy.
Forget about it.
Forget about her, the prettiest and snobbiest person. You'll want to go down a couple levels and talk to one of those girls and find your way in to the conversation.
Yes, the lowest level.
Yes.
The easy pickings.
Find the lowest person to talk to
The one
on the
who's
totem pole.
still trying to make their name in that group.
That's right. Would you count this as a finesse moment?
Yeah, this is pretty clever by Fran here. She's clearly gone through this, as she explains, through her own high school, but This is pretty sound advice here. I got to give it to her.
Great job, Fran.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and we'll give that one to her.
Fran finds finesse.
And not only do you find the person lowest on the totem pole, you unite together against a common enemy, such as your gym teacher.
Yeah, this is smart of Fran to be able to not make, unite amongst a common enemy and slowly work your way into the popular society, the popular schoolgirls.
Yeah, I think this is pretty smart of her to say that for sure. So she also says when they're talking about clothes and boys, they're also going to talk about someone like Bobby Sherman, but not Bobby Sherman, Marky Mark for this day and age. But it seems like she can't let Bobby Sherman go in her thoughts.
Well, because this was what she used back in the day.
Yes.
And then maybe that could still be, I guess this is a way for a friend to learn if people are still talking about Bobby Sherman in school or not.
Yeah.
Which they're not, since Maggie asks who that is, which Fran doesn't like because that points to her being an older person. But
Her aging.
yes.
So who is Bobby Sherman?
So Bobby Sherman started off as a singer, actor, and songwriter, but then later on not switched, but he decided to join the paramedics and the police officers
Wow.
later on in his life. So
Very
anyway,
well-rounded.
Yes, yeah. So anyway, I guess all the girls were swooning over him in the 60s and 70s. Oh, that's where he became a teen idol, actually.
Okay.
So
Yep, that explains why Fran likes him so much. And who's Marky Mark? Maggie's idol.
Marky Wahlberg.
Marky?
Yeah, no, just Mark Wahlberg.
Okay. Yep.
I actually did not know that's what people called him. Or I guess they did. I haven't heard that recently.
I had no idea who they were talking about, but he's the American actor.
Yes, a lot more recent, and the high school people of that day would have much better understood who he is versus Bobby S.
So in the next scene, Gracie and Fran are sitting together, and Fran is showing Gracie who Bobby Sherman is, and she points to the picture and says, "What's that?" And Fran says, "That's his hair." So I guess he had big hair.
Yeah, I didn't realize guys having the big hair was big back then, but I guess it was.
Yep. So this is unrecognizable to Gracie. And Fran says to her, "Well, you should hear his record." And she says, "What's a record?" And then Fran says, "Well, just bury me at this point."
Yeah, because at this point, no one is picking up on, which ironically, Gracie is younger than Maggie, so she's not going to recognize as many things. But yes, this is where Fran is realizing age is starting to work against her.
Yes. Aging. Oh, no.
That fearful thing.
Very much so for Fran. So we see Maggie. She's on the phone, and she's using all the advice that Fran just gave her to connect with Cindy on the phone. And Brighton's playing Tetris on his old Game Boy here, which I thought was cool. I had that game in my Game Boy. And Cece comes to the door, and this is where we see another Niles and Cece interaction together. And she says to Niles, he wants these contracts in London by morning. And Niles says, "Here, hop on. With the time difference, you'll just make it."
Yeah, this was a great thing by Niles.
When he's holding up his broom
Yes.
and
yeah.
says that.
Yeah, that's
Pretty crafty to use like your object that you have right in front of you and come up with that on the spot.
Yeah, no, definitely. Also, too, where right before that we had where Niles opens the door for Cece and she just barges in and she completely ignores him. And then he says, "Oh, yes, I'm doing well. I'm recovered from my sickness. Thank you for asking." Because she just pays no attention to him at all. So,
Yeah, she doesn't even care.
right, yeah.
And he's like just stating, "How could you don't even ask anything about me?"
Yeah.
All right.
No, it's but it's him kind of
Poking fun at that.
poking the bear too with it.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, there was kind of a couple
There's a couple there.
A couple things, yeah. He fires off here that were fun.
He's quick-witted.
Very, very much so.
Yep. So while Cece's there in the doorway, she hears the interaction going on with Maggie and Cindy on the phone and Fran chiming in. And they're talking about the food that's going to be at this party that they're hosting. And they ask Cindy to bring potato salad. Fran says, oh, just have her bring the potato salad, but not the German kind. And Cece says, well, why do I hear the words potato salad and Wentworth in the same setting here? And Niles then tells Cece that Fran and Maggie are hosting a mother-daughter debutante tea at the house. And Cece is frightened by this.
Yeah, I think because Cece knows and understands the sophistication that is required to host a party of women of this level. So,
and Fran's throwing a potluck event here where everyone brings their own food.
Yes, yeah, it's a complete opposite type of get together that Cece would hold for this event. So she's quite nervous that this whole thing is going to go in shambles.
Fran says there's going to be a gypsy fortune teller, a make your own sundae bar, and a cosmetic demonstration. And Cece can't leave at this point, and Niles says, does that mean you're not leaving? And she says, sorry to disappoint you. And he says, I'll bounce back.
Yes, yeah. This was just a little remark here. I don't think this was like a burn-worthy comment, but nonetheless, it was still
sharp.
Still good by, yes, Niles.
So this is the most finesse moment of the whole episode coming up, I think, because they're talking about the gifts that they're going to have, like a grab bag of gifts. And Fran tells Maggie, wrap your gift in tinfoil. This way you can get the gift that you want. So the best gift is wrapped in tinfoil. And then you, randomly pick it. Oh, I wonder what this could be or whose this is. So I thought that was a really great moment.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually, out of all like the white elephant parties and things I've done, I've never thought to
make your wrap different
like that. Yeah, I guess now with all the different wrapping papers, you would almost know which one is yours nowadays.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe they had a whole bunch back then too. But anyway, the tinfoil
it'll stand out from everybody's.
Yes, yeah. Regardless, tinfoil.
Fran finds finesse.
So that'll definitely stand out in the pack for sure.
Yes. So next white elephant party you go to, wrap your own.
Wrap it in tinfoil. You'll be able to see it for miles away.
Yes. And then your friends won't know, but they might know unless they watch the Nanny as well.
Yeah, that's true. So have Christmas parties with people who haven't seen the Nanny yet. And then after you get the gift of your dreams, then you can just tell them about the Nanny and then they can watch an amazing show with you.
Yes.
So Cece says that Fran is very underqualified for this. And Fran tells her, well, I sat at the captain's table on the Carnival cruise. I passed the A1 to Kathy Lee. And Cece says this isn't like a Carnival cruise. These women who host these parties, they're a bunch of vicious, backstabbing, judgmental harpies. And they're also Cece's closest friends. So these are the people she's hanging out with.
Yeah, this fits clearly by her dressing style and attitude and kind of fits right up her alley.
Yeah, I guess so. So Fran says, well, you don't scare me. I've sat in on my mother's mahjong group, which is a rummy game played with tiles.
Yeah, it's the kind of the Asian tile game that I used to play it as a kid, and I actually thought it was quite entertaining. So.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah, no, I had a lot of fun with it. So
wow,
I've never been to a mahjong party group like Fran's mother has, but
sounds like those can get pretty feisty, crazy.
Yeah, I'd like to kind of. It'd be fun to be a part of one of those to see the madness unfolding.
Yeah, I think that'd be really entertaining to watch.
I can't see how it would be that intense, but
really,
yeah. I mean, I never gotten angry at myself with it, so or I'd get frustrated if I couldn't solve the thing. But I'm not breaking tiles or throwing tiles.
Yeah, well, you just don't know what goes on in Sylvia's group. So that would be fun to see. So Cece then says, well, Maggie's social future rests in Fran's capable hands. And for that, her fears are allayed. And then she leaves. And Fran has a burn here that I would expect Niles to have. And then she says, well, at least her fears are getting her laid.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah, that was a pretty dark remark.
But it's pretty crafty.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm shocked. I would think Niles would say that. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. That would be a Niles thing.
yeah, but I bet Niles loved it if he was in earshot of that comment.
Yes.
So in this next scene, Maxwell's acting crazy with a baseball. In my notes, I called him like a lunatic because he just looks like he's now is in the little boy spirit of playing ball, and the only person in the room is Niles now. And he tells Niles, like, go long and I'll burn one in for you. And then Niles is like frightened by this. And so he goes long and he just doesn't know what's about to happen. And then Maxwell throws the ball and then breaks what looks like a really expensive vase right after that.
Yeah, well, I got to say the sound effects here with the broken
It was like
vase was, pretty. It, it was a very interesting sound of breaking. But yes, no. Well, I think this also goes to the theory of with those tags on the gloves being new, because now all of a sudden he's having this great interest for baseball.
Yes,
So,
that's true.
yes.
Like he got a taste of it and now he can't stop.
Yes. But yeah, throwing baseballs in the house, unless you're just a dead accurate. Well, actually, then even if your person is not great at catching, it's just not a good idea.
Yeah. Clearly, it's not a good idea. So Niles comes back in with the broken vase and he says, well, it was old. And Maxwell says it was ancient, actually. Oh, well.
One less thing to dust.
Yeah. So now Niles, his job just got a little bit easier. He doesn't have to dust that thing anymore.
Yeah, that's so. Man, I should have just said, "Yeah, let's keep playing. Just keep breaking everything."
Niles really didn't look into it. He's like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe we're about to do this."
Yeah, maybe because he was worried he was going to get injured.
Yeah, maybe.
But then he could collect injury claim money.
Oh, workers' comp. Niles and workers' comp. So Max says maybe I should just stick to paying some bills, something he's good at. So he picks up a bill, and there's one for a fortune teller, and he says, why am I paying a fortune teller here? And Niles says, oh, Miss Fine hired a fortune teller for the debutante. And Maxwell tells Niles he's having a lot of second thoughts about having Fran be the host for this party here. And this is where Fran comes in and says, can you guys believe that Cece thought I would be so out of place hosting this party? And then the two of them kind of look at each other, and you can tell they agree with Cece. So everyone thinks that Fran is out of place.
Yeah. Yeah, no one trusts in Fran to host this event. Everyone thinks this is way out of her league, and she's ready to take the challenge on to become beige, gray, dull, and boring.
Yes, she says that 14 is such a vulnerable age, and just judging on everyone's reaction, she doesn't want to embarrass Maggie. So she asks for Maxwell and Niles to help her get to be more like the people that would host something like this. So she does reference being embarrassed as a 14-year-old herself. She said, I know what it's like to be embarrassed because my mom picked me up from school in pedal pushers and a halter top. Which, can you imagine Sylvia rolling up to school in that outfit?
No. Nor do I want to.
So Niles and Max, they say, okay, we're going to help you with that stuff, because Fran refers to it as the schmancy fancy stuff. And Niles says he's really good with the schmancy and the fancy.
Yes, he takes great pride in his command of the fancy and the schmancy.
Yes. So she says, what exactly is the difference between me and those ladies that you describe? And then they quickly interchange here, Niles and Max, and roll off a whole list. They say, the clothes, the hair, the voice, the laugh. And Fran says, well, you both came up with that list rather quickly. And they say it's a monumental task, something that might be impossible. And Fran says she's up for the challenge. I'm like an Etch-a-Sketch. Shake me, mold me. And then they say that we have 24 hours to turn this breath of fresh air into a stale, pretentious snob. And then Niles says, in other words, Miss Babcock.
Yes. Still throwing shade even when she's not there.
A burn to Cece and she's not even there.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Niles just keep them coming. No rest.
No rest. He's really good at that. So in this next scene, we see she's practicing her vocals and she's using round tones to say things, and she has marbles in her mouth. What does she say?
Yeah, she's, how now, brown cow? Like that.
Just like that.
Very rounded.
And then she says, can I take these marbles out of my mouth? Because I swallowed 3 and I passed 2 already. So I think she's been at this a long time.
Yeah, I mean, this is a lot of phonetics and practicing all these different things. Reminds me of like Singing in the Rain when they are practicing. If you haven't seen that, there's a scene where they practice things like that. Moses supposes his toes are roses.
Oh, yeah.
But Moses supposes they're erroneous. Anyway, they're practicing all their R's and everything, which reminded me of this scene.
A good parallel. I wonder if they got the idea from that.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I like these phonetics things are pretty funny. I enjoy them.
How now, brown cow?
Yes. Or the next one that Max says. Well, first they start making fun of her R because she has no R in her vocabulary.
Yes, so Maxwell says, let's try to capture the elusive letter R.
Yeah, because her New York accent. They got the O's.
And then she says, well, how come you two, I don't ever hear an R coming out of your mouth. And then they say, we're British. Whatever we say, everybody thinks sounds like Shakespeare.
Yeah, I thought that was really funny.
So they don't have to pronounce their R's, but Fran does to be classy.
Yes, yeah. So in other words, you just need a British accent.
Yeah, that'll fix everything.
Yeah. Maybe I should start talking in one.
So he says to practice the R's, let's say this sentence. Mark went on a lark after dark in Central Park. And then Fran says, well, I hope he has a gun.
Yeah, the street sense here. I thought that was a clever response.
Fran says, okay, I'll pronounce my R's, but the Kennedys don't have an R between them. They park the car in the river and they get away with it. Which I didn't know what this was referring to.
Yeah, you picked up on this reference to look it up first, and I had not. I didn't even, this like went over my head when I was first watching it. So
Yes, so what it's referring to, I believe, is Ted Kennedy, who had an accident and he drove his car off of a bridge into a body of water. And he ended up actually killing a passenger inside and then not reporting the accident until much later when they discovered what happened. And he felt very guilty about this and he admitted to his mistakes, but I believe he didn't get hardly anything.
he wasn't even convicted?
So the only thing that happened was his driver's license was suspended for some months, and that was it. 16 months after the accident.
Wow.
So I guess they got away with it.
Man.
So in this next scene, Fran is walking with a book on her head and she's practicing good posture. Max and Niles say that the ladies don't have high hair like Fran. It's flat. And they also have flat bums too. They mentioned that.
Yes, and they don't swing their hips like Fran does.
Yes. No swinging of the hips. No high hair. Just dull, I guess.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I noticed even like in the first episode, Fran seems to like really accentuate or really over dramatize her walking.
Yeah, like her hips really move from side to side
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
So Niles goes over topics that she's allowed to use at this event, which include talking about the weather or current events or literature. And those are kind of like the 3 subjects she's allowed to use.
Yeah, there's a lot of 3s in this episode. The 3 things to infiltrate the system, 3 things to talk about.
Oh.
A lot of
The
3s
trifectas.
here. Yes. Yeah. 3 was the theme of this episode.
Yeah.
And it was the third
Third
episode.
episode!
Yeah.
Yes!
Wow.
How ironic is that?
Yeah. Maybe that was planned.
Maybe it was planned.
Yeah.
So that's great.
Yeah.
So Fran starts to laugh, and then Niles says, oh, yeah, you can't laugh like that, too. So if you laugh, it must be like a light, breathy, ah, ha, 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 ha. And then
Yes.
close your mouth.
Yes. A very proper laugh.
Not, aha.
Right. Not her iconic laugh. None of that.
So then it's time to go through Fran's wardrobe to see what dress would be appropriate for something like this. And they go through everything. And I thought it was funny that they pulled up that watermelon shirt that she was wearing.
Yeah, I was gonna make a note about that because I saw that she was holding that, and I thought that was
From the first episode.
yeah,
That was funny. They brought that back out.
yeah, that was cool.
So they keep going through because they're not really finding anything that would be appropriate for this party. And then they find a beige frock in there that Maxwell says, what about this beige frock? And then Fran says, that's my dress bag. And then Niles says, well, with a string of pearls and some armholes, it could work.
Yeah, that was that was pretty funny. I mean, whatever to make her fit in.
Yeah.
I do have to say that colored vest that she was wearing in here was quite cool.
I liked it a lot. It was like rainbow vests. It was a
Yeah.
rainbow vest. It was very cool.
Yeah, a lot of bright colors and
Yes. Which
Yeah.
that would not be allowed at this party. So anything that just looks beige and that's
yes,
it.
the dress bag.
The dress bag. So that's funny that that's the only thing they could pull out of her colorful wardrobe was something that covers another piece that she has.
Right. Well, and that's actually like foreshadowing, right? Or maybe not foreshadowing, but it's more like symbolism. There we go.
Yes,
Where
symbolism.
the beige bag covers the colors.
Oh, it
and
covers her
beige
colorful
thing.
personality.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Oh,
Yeah, there's some
yes.
deep insight for you.
The beige bag symbolizes Niles, Maxwell, and Cece, who's trying to cover up Fran's shining, colorful personality.
Yeah.
Yes. Just like her outfits that are colorful.
Deep.
So something else, they're teaching Fran how to use the proper utensils, which I thought was interesting because you always see that in proper etiquette classes, but in this party, she's not eating with any utensils. She's not using that foundational knowledge she's getting from Niles and Maxwell.
Oh, right. Yeah. So in this next scene, we have them back at the kitchen, or not the kitchen, the dining room, and she's learning
Salad
the
fork,
proper,
dinner fork,
yes, all the proper forks for what meals and all the spoons and whatnot.
but she's not eating a big meal.
But yeah, no, you bring up an interesting point of how, because she threw the potluck style that you really need the fancy or proper etiquette for what utensils to use. So no, that's a valid point you bring up.
Even when they changed the party around to be all prim and proper, I didn't see any like formal dining room setting things set up.
Yeah, it almost looks like a mini buffet style or something.
And then there were like boxes of pizza towards the end too.
Oh, I missed those. I didn't see those.
Yeah, when we'll get to that part. But
Yeah.
so they're at the table learning about the forks and the knives and everything. And then Fran takes a drink out of the finger bowl, the bowl used for washing of the fingers.
Yes, she just takes it like a cup and drinks the water out of it, which then they scold her for and say, no, it's for your fingers to wash them off.
And then she says, have they ever heard of wet naps before?
Yeah, and that they can't afford them. But no, I guess you just use
A bowl.
water instead of wet naps.
Just like dip your fingers in.
Yeah, but I didn't see a towel or anything either. So
That's weird. You just dry them, like air dry them after.
yeah, you just flick them at people.
Flick them. Yeah, that doesn't seem proper. When she drinks out of it, she says tart, but refreshing. So does it have like, is there soap in there? Is there like a certain taste in her mouth, or is it just
Maybe,
water?
yeah. I don't know. I think I figured there was nothing, and I thought she was just trying to say something to sound.
To comment on it
Yes.
for the sake of it.
Right.
So in this next scene, after Fran's just been prepping like crazy, we see her in action. And Niles and Max are really worried about what she's going to say and do at this party. And Max says that this is worse than opening night jitters that he gets. And then Niles says, yep, and the critics are even tougher, which is pretty crazy because Maxwell has a pretty stressful job.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess maybe because, well, I don't know. I don't know why he would have compared that. I guess because maybe with the investors or something, or a potential investor. If you have no money, then you can't even perform a show, so then you don't even have critics to critique your show. So
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe it's something along those lines, but
Yeah.
so they are very worried. They see her coming down the stairs and in her beige dress, looking all prim and proper, and they talk about how they've done it. And I also thought it was interesting. Max always calls Niles an old man.
Yeah, well, I thought it was really cool to see the back and forth between them because Niles says to him, I feel like this whole thing brought us closer together. And then Maxwell says, well, don't get carried away.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like they're bonding over this whole event.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was funny. He says, I think we've done it, old man.
Yeah, that's quite the nickname.
Yeah. Originally in the original thing, Niles was supposed to be a lot older, but
A lot older. Yep.
anyway, yeah. I just thought that was funny.
So Fran is walking around this party now saying, how now, brown cow, to use what she's been practicing. And she like points to a woman who's
brown.
wearing an all brown outfit.
Yeah, that was really funny. But it was weird though how she didn't even say anything. I would think that person would have been quite offended.
Yeah.
And they would have turned around and said something, but
called a brown cow?
yeah.
It's crazy.
You're large and brown.
How now, brown cow?
Yeah, I don't know. That was
This kind of offensive.
yeah, the fact that she didn't respond to that was, I guess, because that just wasn't written in. But you would have thought. But anyway.
Yeah. So we see Maureen Wentworth, and she is dressed like an actual pilgrim with like the big buckle and the collar and everything.
Yeah, I thought that was a fun fashion or fun wardrobe idea to make her look like her ancestors boarding the Mayflower.
Yes. Something else I thought was funny here. Cece greets Maureen and they say kiss, kiss, hug, hug, instead of actually kissing and hugging.
Yeah, they do like a little mini hug, but
And a mini like turn your cheek for the
Right.
kiss
yeah.
part. But like you don't actually say those words when you're going to do that. Usually.
Well, yeah, I guess that's the fun of it is.
That's the proper way to do it.
Yeah, well, or they just act out the motions rather than actually doing them. It's just
That's-
inferred.
The proper way.
Yeah. It's easier if I just speak it versus actually doing the actions.
It's true. So Fran is going around talking to people, and then she says, charmed, I'm sure. And Cece then says, look who discovered the letter R here. So she's really like in her head about the letter R.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the letter R really, for some accents, it's a tough one. But yeah, it is funny how she's rounding out her syllables now.
Rounding out her syllables.
How now, brown cow?
That's a weird phrase.
Yeah.
So we see Maggie and her friends on the stairs, and they say this party's boring. And Maggie says, don't worry, Fran has a lot of fun stuff planned because it looks like her and her friends are not enjoying prim and proper for what it's worth at this party. So then we cut to Fran interacting with somebody, and they say, oh, what a lovely artifact. And they say, is it Mayan? And Fran says, no, it's his'n. And then she's pointing to Mr. Sheffield.
Yeah, I guess this was supposed to be slang or something. I didn't totally.
Like to go with the Mayan, but it's his'n.
Okay, yeah, right. Yeah, where it's okay. Yeah.
I like think that was my favorite part about the whole episode, maybe one of my favorite parts. But I thought that was genius. She's just playing off of what everybody's saying and trying to sound as proper as possible.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, I thought that, yeah.
So after that like spooks Maxwell and he says, Niles, Mayday, Mayday. And then Niles swoops in with his cucumber sandwiches. And then Fran just can't control herself. And she says to the woman, well, I removed the seeds from the cucumbers to prevent gas from happening.
Yeah, here she's very blunt, which is not.
To avoid flatulence.
Yes, yeah. Well,
oh, to avoid gas.
Right,
and
she
then
says gas. And then
Niles.
Which I thought this was one of my favorites from the episode, was where he talks about, indeed, literature, the weather, and the lively arts are such narrow topics. One must invariably turn to flatulence for inspiration. I thought that was very well said.
Really good line.
Yeah, that one was really funny.
It's like Fran can't control herself at all. The topics just keep getting crazier and crazier. She's talking about gas, and then she's talking about her uncle and how he died during the 7th inning stretch when he didn't. So he never stretched because he was dead. That's like her topic that she's going on about. So do you think that's prim and proper to talk about your uncle passing away
Probably not.
in that type of setting?
No, I don't think so.
So Maggie's really she's had enough at this point. And she says, we're bored. What are you doing? And then she makes a big scene in front of everybody and loudly says, this is the worst party that I've ever been to. And she storms out of the room.
Yeah, but this comment I don't know, this was very weird because they were talking normal right before that. And then out of nowhere, she just shouts, this is the worst party.
I think because she's saying, Fran, what happened to everything? And Fran's like, oh, isn't this party great? Isn't it wonderful? It's, prim and proper, just what we all wanted. And then that really makes Maggie mad because she's thinking like, what happened to all the wonderful things that we had planned? And then, like as a teenager, you're just angsty about everything already. And then there's just like a build-up moment, I think, for her. And then she exploded.
Yeah, I guess maybe you see like that. I don't know, I felt like she talked for 2 seconds. She was totally calm. And then out of nowhere, she just like turned into like,
the worst party ever.
yeah, she's like, this is the worst. I'm leaving. And then like made a big dramatic, I don't know, I felt like the dramatic exit was really not called for.
It probably wasn't called for, but I could probably relate to her being a teenager who's moody about some of these things.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would not have. I would have just quietly said, "Oh, this is not what I wanted," or whatever. Not made some large scene about it and storm out.
You weren't a dramatic, sassy 14-year-old.
No, I was a calm, cool, collected lad. Yes.
Okay. So Fran follows Maggie into the kitchen, and Maggie's sulking in the corner. And Maggie said to Fran, what happened to the great party that we all planned to have? And then Fran told Maggie about how Cece was worried, and Max and Niles tried to jump in and help, but ultimately this was taking away from what they put together as a party. And then Fran says, I can't believe I listened to Cece about all of this, and she got in my head. And Maggie says, well, I can't believe that you dressed like a geek and ruined her party, because it's the nicest thing that anyone's ever done for her. So now she's done with the outburst, Maggie. Now she is nice, Maggie. But she realizes, wow, Fran went through a lot of work to make this a really great party for me. So I should appreciate what she's done. She's changed everything about her and everything about the party on a dime. And now here it is. So
yeah, no, this was really nice of Fran, and Maggie starts seeing that, and this is where we see Fran and Maggie having a nice bonding moment. I felt like last episode it was about Fran and Brighton having a connection, and this is where we see Maggie and Fran starting to have a connection.
yeah, you're right.
And so yeah, no, this was a nice scene. And I mean, I guess that is pretty nice to dress like a geek and
Yeah.
make a lame party. That's totally nice.
Because it came from like the goodness of her heart ultimately. Because
Yeah.
she thought this is what's cool. So, or this is like what's in and this is what I need to do for her.
Yeah, but this is clearly Maggie needs help. 'Cause
Yes.
this was the nicest thing someone's ever done.
Oh,
She needs help. We're working on it though. Clearly,
Well,
from this
that's really
episode,
special, though.
But yes,
Still,
we're seeing how boring her life was before Fran entered.
yes, that's true. That is true.
Yeah.
So it's kind of nice that Maggie does want like something fun and different, which is what Fran is really good at offering in the first place. So Maggie tells Fran, you don't need to change who you are to have a good party. And Maggie says she wants to be like Fran, and Fran says, are you kidding? I would kill to be like you. So they both say they would kill to be like each other. And then Maggie says, well, let's go out there and make a party that will want to kill Cece.
Yeah. So they turn back to their old ways. They kind of turn her back around. She's wearing a more fun outfit now.
Yeah,
and
Fran says, take my hair out.
yeah. She's being totally normal with Miss Wentworth or Mrs. Wentworth.
Yeah, just being her normal self, her normal personality. You see that this is where you see that there's pizza boxes everywhere. And then we see that there's a limbo competition going on near the harpist, who is now like upbeat playing. And before they were just very like dully playing in the corner.
Oh yeah, they're trying to play like a pop song or something.
Yeah, it's
On
pretty
the
fun.
harp. Yeah.
So going into the conversation between Fran and Maureen, Maureen's talking about her history of pilgrims and pilgrimage, and she says, my family landed on Plymouth Rock. My family can be traced back for 500 years. And then Fran says, oh, you want to hear about my family? Well, we landed on Ellis Island, and then they changed our names, and now we don't know who the hell we were before that. So it's like two different classes and personalities of people, which is funny.
Yeah. Yeah. That was quite the I guess it's the whole this is the upper class society, which Fran was not a part of, so seeing that distinguish here. So
Yeah. So Maureen really likes the conversation that she's having with Fran, and she turns to Maxwell and says, Fran is an absolute gem. And then Fran pokes her head out and looks at Maxwell, and he says, oh, I never doubted you for a moment. So here's like another moment where Fran just being herself turned out to be pretty successful for Max, because Maureen says, I want in on your next show. So
yeah, he makes the winning buckaroos again.
yes, so all Fran had to do was be herself to help out. And then Maxwell really gets some dough due to Fran. She should get like a bonus.
Yeah, she's been between the first and this episode, she's racking in a lot of investor money.
Yes.
She should be a
Entertainer, or like a
like a person who raises money for his play.
yeah.
It's escaping me now, but yeah, someone she clearly is good at
She can host his events.
fundraising.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I want to mention that Brighton is hitting on Maggie's friends here at the party.
Well, because Cindy thinks his dad looks cute, and he says, "Oh,
They say I look just like him.
yeah," which was funny because they got a guy who has blonde hair, and Max is dark hair. So, but yeah, no, so it doesn't look anything at all like him. But that was funny. We have the gypsy fortune teller.
Oh yeah.
and Cece going to basically trying to find out if she's gonna have Max in her life later on, and the gypsy teller is like, I do not see a tall, dark, and handsome man in your future.
No tall, dark, handsome anything in your future.
Oh right, yeah, it was anything. Yeah, so Cece is dumbfounded and in shock that it doesn't look like
Wow.
Max may fall into her hands.
It's not in the cards.
Yeah,
That's really sad.
it is.
So the way the whole episode ends is the gifts are coming out and they're in a bag, and Maggie says that it's Fran's turn to grab a gift, and voila, she picks the gift with a tinfoil on it.
She takes her advice.
She took her own advice.
Yeah.
Pretty great.
Yeah. Nice heartwarming way to end the episode.
Yes.
Yeah, that was good.
I really liked how it ended, for sure. Everything worked out. Fran was herself. Maggie had a great party.
All right, so that brings us to the end of the episode. So we need to break down the Niles and CC banter for this
Woohoo!
episode.
Is this heaven or is this hell? Maybe sometimes both as well. Naughty nights and sassy CC.
Yeah, so we have in the beginning where Niles first gives his first burn when Cece walks in talking about if they've selected the debutante for the biosphere.
Burn.
Number 1 to Niles. Then we have where if you hop on the broom, you'll make the time difference.
Burn.
Number 2.
For Niles.
Yes, Niles on a roll. Then we have like a quarter of a 1 in response to hers. She has like a quarter of a 1 saying, "Oh, am I going to disappoint you by leaving?" Give that like a quarter point.
Okay, that gets a quarter of a point.
Yeah. And then he responds, "Oh, don't worry, I'll bounce back a quarter."
So 2 quarters.
Yeah. Well, 1 quarter for Cece and 1 quarter
Right.
for Niles.
So we have 2 1/4, and then our next one from Niles is the statement where they say they have 24 hours to turn this breath of fresh air into a stale, pretentious snob. And Niles says, in other words, Miss Babcock.
Yes.
Boom. So 3 1/4 for Niles and a quarter for Cece for this go around.
Yes. Niles
For the win.
keeping it heavy on her with the boxing. He's just laying them on. She's not responding yet.
When is Cece going to come back?
Yeah.
Fight.
Yeah. We'll find out.
We
Will
will
it happen
find
next
out.
episode? Tune in.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
All right. So Niles is our winner.
Woo, King Niles.
Yeah. 2 overall so far.
Yep. He won 2.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that, we're hopping into recap.
Recap.
Let's put this all together. These moments are forever.
Okay. Max and Brighton, they play ball.
Backwards cap for Max.
Maureen Wentworth has major dough.
She's a rich baller.
Pilgrim. Maggie's invited to be a junior deb.
She doesn't want in.
Fran teaches Maggie how to interact with the popular girls in school and work on her social life.
Infiltrate the system.
Fran and Maggie are hosting a mother-daughter society tea.
Ha ha ha, tea party.
Cece is worried about Fran being the host. Max throws a baseball to Niles and breaks an old vase. Fran is worried and asks Maxwell and Niles for help with hosting the party. They teach Fran how to pronounce the letter R and how to act classier and therefore
R.
boring.
R.
The party is boring.
Lame.
Maggie's upset.
She's crying. Not
Fran
really.
then becomes herself again and shows her personality.
Fixes the party.
Things go well with Maureen. She invests. She loves Fran.
Success.
And Fran gets the golden tinfoil gift.
Of 10.
Foil. Tinfoil.
Foil 10.
Fran gets the silver tinfoil gift.
Yes. End of episode.
End of episode.
Woo.
Yeah, so that was a great episode. I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a good one overall. So definitely enjoyed it. So, all right. Well, I think that brings us to the end of the episode. Of our episode. Ha 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 ha. So,
Thank you to everybody for tuning in to our 3rd episode of A Fine Podcast with your host, Amanda and...
Joseph. And don't forget to follow us on all our different social media accounts if you'd like to at A Fine Podcast.
That's right. Instagram, TikTok, X, YouTube, you name it. We're there. Facebook. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Yes. Niles says they've selected a debutante for the biosphere. When Cece asks... Wait, actually, I didn't write that down. What did Cece say?
Wait, what? Did you say that right for Niles?
Yeah, they've selected a dilettante.
A dilettante.
I say dilettante. That sounds cool. Yes, they've selected a dilettante for the biosphere.
So we end here with time. Okay. So we end here. Stop it.
So a dilettante is a person who gold. A dilettante is a person who cultivates their.
Stop.
Bobby Sherman was an American retired paramedic, police officer. Para.
And in the next scene, Fran is showing Gracie who Bobby Sherman is, and she says, "What's that?" And he says, or she, and she says, "I can't even talk anymore."
He's an alien. He's a non-human being.
Where he okay, stop.
We need to break down Niles and Cece Burns of this episode.